You know, I say sci-fi fantasy books, but what I mean is like a bunch of fantasy books and like 1 or 2 sci-fi that sort of snuck in there on accident, and they kind of scare me, because sci-fi scares me. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evelyn, and Happy New Year! By the time this video goes up, it will already be 2021, so what's the future like, y'all? So, this video is part 2 of my most anticipated reads of 2021 video series. Today we are talking about sci-fi and fantasy books that I am so excited to read that are releasing in the first half of the year. That's January through June. Later on in the year, I will be releasing the second half of this series where I talk about books releasing from July to December. I split these videos up because we don't necessarily get a lot of information about books releasing in the second half of the year until later on in the year. And I want to give you all as much detailed information as possible about why I'm excited for these books, their release dates, etc. So if you want to stick around until then, remember to click that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we have Glimpsed by G.G. Miller, which is set to release tomorrow, January 5th. Charity is a covert fairy godmother. She's got the ability to glimpse people's perfect futures, and she's been using it to make sure that the deepest desires of the students of Jack London High come true. But when a wish goes wrong, she can't help but question every wish she's ever granted. Has she really been helping people? According to Noah, the ex of one of the girls she helped, she's been doing more harm than good. He wants her to fix what she's messed up in his life. So, y'all know I love fairy tales, and so I love any story that takes elements of fairy tales and then questions them. And one of the things that's pretty prevalent in fairy tales, specifically like ones collected by Charles Perrault, is the idea of a fairy godmother. And so I'm interested in this. I like the idea of, you know, questioning, like, okay, you're giving one person what they really desire most, but like, how does that ripple out and affect other people? Is it always positive just because you've helped one person? Like, this moral dilemma tied up in the magic? That's really cool. Next we have Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Meyer, which is set to release on January 12th. For centuries, the witch in the wood has been luring people into the forest in order to harvest their souls. But Owen Merrick wasn't sacrificed. He was saved by Seren, one of the witch's tree siren daughters, who desperately longs to be human. So this is giving me Little Mermaid vibes, but instead of a mermaid in the ocean wanting to be human, it's a tree siren. I don't know what a tree siren is, but I love a good creepy magical forest setting, so I'm very excited for this one. Next we have A Complicated Love Story Set in Space by Shaun David Hutchinson, which is set to release on January 19th. When 3 teens get randomly transported to a spaceship called the Curiosity, they'll have to work together to face up against horrible things like murder, aliens, and a school dance. Nothing is as it seems on this ship, and as their memories of the past resurface, they might just upend their lives forever. So this sounds really cool. It's set in space, which is always fun. Seems like there's gonna be some hijinks. There's also a gay romance. We love a good gay romance. Next we have Wings of Ebony by Elle, which is set to release on January 26th. After their mother was shot on their doorstep, Rue was separated from her sister and brought to live with a father she never knew on a hidden island of magic users. But when she escapes to find her way back to Houston and her sister Tasha, she finds that there's an evil lurking that is forcing black kids into crime and violence. Rue will have to embrace the power of her ancestors in order to save the neighborhood. So first of all, the cover for this one, amazing. I think I gasped out loud when I saw this for the first time because it's just beautiful. Second of all, we've got this cool blend of this sort of ancestral magic plus urban city sort of culture, and that's always really cool. I'm really excited to see like a diversifying of urban fantasy that's been happening recently, and I'm really excited to check this one out. It sounds amazing. Next we have Muse by Brittany Cavallaro, which is set to release on February 2nd. Claire Emerson's father is a world-renowned inventor who believes that his genius is granted to him by her touch. War is brewing in the first American kingdom, and he's working to reveal a mighty weapon at the World's Fair in St. Cloud, so he needs her gift more than ever. Which is why she's crafting a plan to escape. But before she can, she's taken captive by a young governor who believes her touch can help him cling to power. She doesn't want to be anyone else's muse, but he might be the best ally she has. So this is a sort of alternate history, historical fantasy deal, which historical fantasy is not typically a genre that I lean toward. However, ever since I read Libba Bray's Diviner series, I've been more open to it, and I trust Brittany Cavallaro because I love the Sherlock Holmes books, so I'm very excited to see what she's come up with here. It sounds really cool and kind of steampunky, and like I'm into it. Next we have This Golden Flame by Emily Victoria, which is set to release on February 2nd. Karis is desperate to find her long-lost brother, but she's being forced to work for the Scriptorium, a ruling group of scribes whose only goal is to unlock the magic of an ancient automaton army. But then she does the impossible. She awakens one of the automatons. Alex has a consciousness of his own, but he has no idea why he was made or why his father tried to destroy the automatons. Together, they begin searching for answers, and Karis' brother, but the Scriptorium is hunting them down. So I'm really excited for this one. It sort of gives me vibes of like His Dark Materials meets Ashley Poston's Heart of Iron series. I have no idea if that's accurate or not, but just based on the description, it seems like it shares that sort of like two souls fated to have a part in this huge destiny, right? Sort of vibe. I know that's like a lot of YA, but this seems really cool. Like, there's automatons, there's like a mystery surrounding how they work, why they were created. That's really cool. There's this like creepy government that's like trying to control them. Like, it's got all of these things that make me excited to read a story, so I'm excited to read it. Next, we have The Valley and the Flood by Rebecca Mahoney, which is set to release on February 23rd. When Rose Coulter's car breaks down in the middle of the Nevada desert, she hears a mysterious radio broadcast, the last voicemail her best friend Gabby left her before she died. She finds the nearest radio tower in the small town of Lotus Valley, where, according to the town's third most accurate prophet, they've been waiting for her. Her arrival is part of a looming prophecy that says that a flood will destroy Lotus Valley in 3 days' time. We love a good prophecy. We love a good mysterious small town in the middle of a desert, which is sort of giving me Night Vale vibes, just like a teensy tiny bit, but I'm not mad about it. And it seems like it's gonna be exploring grief in an interesting way as well, and all in all, seems like it should be pretty good, right? Next we have A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth, which is set to release on February 23rd. When a series of ritualistic murders rocks the city of Toronto and threatens to expose the 8 courts of folk to the human world, 4 queer teens must form an alliance in order to track down the killer. With a war brewing between the mortal and immortal realms, if they fail, they risk the destruction of the fairy and human worlds. So I'm not typically super interested in this sort of grungy urban fantasy fairy thing, like fairies in general, fae in general, not my vibe. I know it's weird, I read a lot of YA and I don't like fae, like ooh, but this is queer and it's got a cool cover, so I'm interested. And I have a lot of friends who are very, very excited for this book, so that's made me more excited for it than I think I would normally be, and so we're gonna give it a try. Next we have Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley, which is set to release on March 9th. Tamsin is the most powerful witch of her generation, but she's being punished for committing the worst magical sin. She's been exiled by the ruling coven and cursed with an inability to love without stealing the feelings from others. Rin is a source. She's made of magic, but she can't use it herself. They're so rare that they're supposed to train with the Coven as soon as they discover their abilities, but she's been hiding in order to care for her father. When a magical plague ravages the queendom and Rin's father falls victim, the two girls make a deal. If Tamsin can help catch the witch responsible for creating the plague, then Rin will give away her love for her father. So first of all, look at that. Look at that cover. It's so gorgeous. I could stare at it forever. I know I'm not the first person to say it, but these sapphics are really winning this year. Please. That's amazing. I'm also just very intrigued by the synopsis. Like, it's hinting at a very interesting magic system. And one of these girls is cursed. They're actively, like, trying to work together, but their interests don't quite align. It's setting up for some interesting angst, some drama here, and I'm here for it. I'm ready. Next, we have the Mirror season by Anna-Marie McLemore, which is set to release on March 16th. Graciela Cristales' whole world changes after she and a boy whose names she never even learned are assaulted at a party. Neighborhood trees vanish, replaced by dangerously magical shards of mirrored glass, and she loses her gift for making enchanted pan dulce. But when the boy, Locke, shows up at her school with no memory of what happened that night, she decides she has to help him. So one of my favorite books that I read this year was Meteor Girls, which was co-written by Anna-Marie McLemore, and I sort of fell in love with their prose, and right around the same time I was reading that, this book got announced, and so I have been so excited about it ever since. It's another absolutely gorgeous cover, and I know this book is going to be so heart-wrenching, but I am prepared. I am prepared to have my heart wrenched. Next we have Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas, which is set to release on March 23rd. 5 years after Wendy and her brothers went missing in the woods, children begin disappearing and questions stir back up. When Wendy almost runs over an unconscious boy lying in the middle of the road, she gets pulled further into the mystery she's trying to flee. Peter, a boy she thought only existed in her stories, claims that the missing children will meet the same fate as her brothers unless Wendy confronts what is waiting for her in the woods. So there are a couple of reasons why I'm super excited about this one. Another amazing cover, first of all. So beautiful, so haunting. We love it. I read Aiden Thomas's Cemetery Boys earlier this year, another one of my favorite reads of 2020, and I'm very excited for more Aiden Thomas books. And I also reread Peter and Wendy, the book version of Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, this semester for my children's literature class, and it's so beautiful, and I love it so much. And I cried while reading it. I was a Neverland kid, which I didn't realize until this year. I had a lot more like childhood nostalgia wrapped up in Neverland than I thought I did. I also cried while reading Cemetery Boys. So you see where this is heading, right? But as we know, if a book makes me cry, I respect it more. So I'm excited to see what happens. Next, we have The Bone Crier's Dawn by Kathryn Purdie, which is set to release on March 30th. So this one's actually a sequel. It's the sequel to Bone Crier's Moon, which released earlier this year. So I'm trying to be as vague as possible with this, but Bone Criers are responsible for ferrying the souls of the dead into the afterlife. Their sacred powers do come at a price, though. They must sacrifice their one true love, their amour, to the gods that they serve. But Bone Crier Sabine is trying to find a way to rewrite the rules of the afterlife and break a soul bond before her best friend dies. I read the first book in this series earlier this year, and it just snatched me up and I could not stop reading. I was very invested in the relationships between the three characters. I was fascinated by the lore, and I can't wait to see where the story continues. If you haven't read the first book, you've got time. Next, we have The Infinity Quartz by Akemi Bowman, which is set to release on April 6th. Nami Miyamoto has a promising life ahead of her. She's just graduated from high school and is on her way to celebrate with her entire class, except she gets murdered before she gets there. She wakes up in Infinity, the place where human consciousness goes when physical bodies die. She discovers that it has been taken over by Ophelia, the virtual assistant widely used by humans on Earth, who has declared herself queen and is forcing human souls into servitude. So this is like Alexa gone wrong. Alexa plus death, the underworld. Alexa, like, meets Persephone? I don't know, but I'm very excited to find out. Next, we have These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy, which is set to release on April 20th. The twin heirs of Turin have been separated for years, preparing for their respective futures. While Isfeta, the future queen, has been learning the ins and outs of court, Asaya has been training under her aunt, the mysterious Firebird, to keep magic balanced within the realm. But before either of them are ready, the queen is killed and a new ruler must be crowned. Look at that cover! It fills me with such joy. So I'm so excited for this book. First of all, I just love any YA that's got, like, court intrigue and princesses. I love things with, like, sibling relationships. Maybe it's me being an only child and, like, the only way that I can get that is, like, through stories, but I have always been fascinated by, like, sibling stories, so that's fun. Also, I love ballet. I was a ballerina as a child. I wanted to be a professional ballerina for, like, a hot second there, and then I switched to writer and never looked back, but I still love listening to the music from the ballets, and possibly my favorite instrumental piece of music of all time is The Suite from the Firebird. So when I found out that this is inspired by that story, because y'all know I love retellings. Look at all the boxes that this is checking. I'm pretty sure this is my most anticipated book on this list. Oh, and get this. The author has compared it to Frozen, except I believe she said that the Anna sister is the queer one. We like it. I want to read it. I cannot wait to read it. Next we have In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens, which is set to release on April 20th. Prince Tal has spent most of his life trapped behind palace walls, learning to keep his forbidden magic a secret. But with his coming-of-age tour approaching, he's looking forward to seeing his family's kingdom for the first time. Then, just 2 days into the journey, the crew rescues a mysterious prisoner on a burning vessel. Tal feels an intense connection to the roguish Athlon, and he's heartbroken when he leaps overboard and disappears. But when Tal is kidnapped by pirates, plotting to reveal his powers and start a war, Athlon might just be his only hope. The vibes. The vibes from this cover. Impeccable. Oh my gosh. I love a good pirate story. I love a good adventure on the high seas, and I am very excited for some piratey goodness. Next we have Witches Steeped in Gold by Ciannon Smart, which is set for release on April 20th. In this Jamaican-inspired fantasy where dangerous magic reigns supreme, two witches enter into a precarious alliance in order to defeat a mutual enemy. One, a princess who refuses to be sacrificed to strengthen her mother's power, the other, a prisoner seeking vengeance. So we love a good tentative alliance, first of all. Second of all, we love this cover. Cover artists outdid themselves this year, I swear. Look at that. I look at that and I get chills. I'm so intimidated by this cover. This cover could kick my ass. Next we have Blade of Secrets by Tricia Levenseller, which is set to release on May 4th. Zifa would much rather spend her days in the safety of her forge, using her magical gift to imbue the weapons she makes with power, than face the outside world and all the anxiety it causes her. That is, until she receives a dangerous commission for a sword that steals its victim's secrets. With help from her sister, a magical scholar, and a distractingly handsome mercenary, she'll have to go on a quest to keep the sword out of the hands of a power-hungry warlord. So I just love everything that I've read by Tricia Levenseller. I love the way that she writes female characters, and I love the ways in which they sort of deal with their own strength and also their own weakness. And I love that this has anxiety rep. There's not a lot of like explicit anxiety rep in fantasy, and this has it right there in the description. And as an anxious fucking person, I really appreciate that, and I'm very excited to read this book. Also, just magical swords. Magical swords. And it's a quest. So many wonderful things to be excited about. Next, we have Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, which is set to release on May 4th. Karain has spent her entire life at the end of the world, watching her pirate mother sail away on adventures she's never been allowed to take part in. So when a mysterious immortal and a deadly assassin arrive on her doorstep and tell her she's the last member of a dying bloodline, which makes her the only one who can save the world, she seizes the chance to have her own adventure. But this is not the age of heroes, and the world around them is coming apart at the seams. So just the fact that the character literally lives at the end of the world, and also the fact that the world is falling apart, and it's got a little Chosen One vibes, not gonna lie, but I'm here for it. I'm interested. It sounds very epic. We'll see. Next, we have The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He, which is set to release on May 4th. STEM prodigy Casey no longer trusts her home in the Eco-City, the last unpolluted place on Earth. It's supposed to be a sanctuary for those committed to protecting the planet, but it's been corrupted by people desperate for refuge, desperate enough to lie. How can Casey use science to help humanity if it's already failed the people who matter most? 3 years ago, C woke up on an abandoned island with no idea how she was marooned. The only thing she knows is that she has a sister, and she needs to find her. It's another sister story. Also, another beautiful cover. It also seems like sci-fi I can handle. That's what I like to call it. Sci-fi I can handle. Because I can't necessarily handle super intense sci-fi. I get confused really easy. But this sounds cool. It sounds sort of eco-science-y, which is, it's fun. I mean, it's not fun because our planet's dying, but, you know, like, fun. And also there's a mystery, and also sisters, as we've established. Next, we have The Girl from the Sea by Molly Ostertag, which is set to release on June 1st. 15-year-old Morgan is stifled by life on the little island where she lives, surrounded by secrets. The biggest one being that she'd really like to kiss another girl. But then one night she's saved from drowning by a mysterious girl named Kelty, and the two of them strike up a friendship that makes life a little less stifling. But Kelty has her own secrets to hide, and as the two girls start to fall for each other, their respective secrets begin to find their way to the surface. Cute! So cute! Look at that! It's sapphic, the art looks adorable. I'm excited. Next we have Fire with Fire by Destiny Soraya, which is set to release on June 8th. Danny and Eden Rivera know that when it comes to dragons, it's kill or be killed, and they were born to kill dragons. But when Danny comes face to face with one and forges a rare magical bond, she begins to question everything she's ever known about them. Desperate to save her sister from the clutches of the dragons, Eden turns to sorcerers for help. They'll do anything it takes to save each other, but they're trapped on opposite sides of a war they barely understand. It's dragons, y'all. You had to know there was going to be at least one dragon book on this list because your girl loves dragons, and these are Latinx dragons, so they're superior. Also, there's something about two people desperately wanting to save each other who love each other so much, but they're stuck on opposite sides of something that's just so beautiful. This is another one that I cannot wait to get my hands on. Next we have Girls at the Edge of the World by Laura Brooke Robson, which is set to release on June 8th. There's an epic flood coming, and only a chosen few are guaranteed safe passage. The Court's Royal Flyers, a celebrated group of aerial silk performers, are not necessarily chosen. Principal Flyer Natasha would do anything to save the only family she's ever known, including being courted by Prince Nikolai. But things are complicated by the fact that her newest recruit, Elle, is on a mission for revenge that could put everything in peril. And yet that does not stop sparks from flying between the two flyers. So one of my favorite fantasy books that I read this year, but also of all time, is The Dark Tide by Alicia Jensinka. This has some of the same things that has. Sapphics, who have similar but opposing goals, stuck in a kingdom that is about to flood. And so I think I might enjoy this. It might be a very specific niche of books that I really like. We'll see. Next we have Of Princes and Promises by Sonja Menon, which is set to release on June 8th. Katharina Laval is still the queen of St. Rosetta's Academy. She may have been humiliated by her ex-boyfriend Alaric cheating on her, but she is determined to stay untouchable. But when she finds out Alaric is taking a supermodel to the upcoming gala, she knows she needs to find a date. But she can't bear the thought of dealing with another superficial St. R's boy. Raoul Chopra has been in love with Katharina for years, but he knows he's too socially inept to fit into her world. Enter a mysterious pot of hair gel with the power to change its wearer into their heart's desire that transforms him instantly into the charming RC. So this is the second book in the St. Rosetta's Academy series. They're contemporary fantasy fairy tale retellings, and this is sort of a take on the Frog Prince. And I really enjoyed the first book, and so I'm very excited to see what she does with this one. I also just love Sonja Menon as a writer and as a human. She's lovely, and a lot of people talk about her straight up contemporary romances, but I haven't seen a lot of people talking about these, and I really think that more people should pick them up. Next we have For the Wolf by Hannah F. Whitten, which is set to release on June 15th. Red knows that she's destined to be sacrificed to the wolf in the wood. She doesn't mind, though. She's been plagued by a dangerous power she can't control, and in the wilder wood she won't be able to hurt the people she loves. In fact, she may be helping return their captured gods to them. Except the legends lied. The wolf isn't a monster, he's a man, and her magic may be the only thing that can stop the monsters the gods have become. This sounds cool, right? Got fairy tale retelling vibes. It's got monstrous old gods and also cool woodland setting. All things that I love and I'm very excited for. Next we have Bloodlike Magic by Lizelle Sambury, which is set to release on June 15th. Voya Thomas never expected to fail her calling, the trial every witch must pass in order to come into their powers. So, when her ancestors give her an unprecedented second chance, she agrees, even though this time to fail would mean that every Thomas witch would be stripped of their magic. She is horrified to learn that her task is to kill her first love, especially since she's never been in love before. Luckily, a genetic matchmaking service has just hit the market that should be able to help her find the perfect boy fast. Weirdly enough, there are 2 books on this list that have to do with killing a man in order to gain your ancestral magic, which, like, I respect. I do. I think this sounds very interesting, especially this, like, genetic matchmaking service component, and the fact that she, like, is actively trying to fall in love. It seems like a rom-com gone wrong, you know? Like, oh, I've gotta find the perfect boy for me, and I'm gonna use this matchmaking service, and, like, it would be wacky hijinks, but there's magic and murder, so that's great. So, there you have it. The sci-fi fantasy books releasing in the first half of 2021 that I am so excited to try and get my hands on. But that is not all of the books that you should be anticipating in the first half of the year. No. There are some books that I left off of these lists because I am no longer anticipating them because I received ARCs. Yes, I received some ARCs. And so next week, I'll be telling you about those books and why you should be so excited to read them. So if you want to see that video, remember to click that subscribe button. If you like this video, be sure to leave a big thumbs up. And with that being said, my name is Evelyn. I make new videos every magical Monday, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.